Gervonta Tank Davis does it again against Frank Martin, 8th round stoppage. I had predicted a 9th round, but it went 8. And let's see who's next. Let's see who's next for Tank Davis. I feel like it's got to be a very credible opponent, especially if it happens to take place at 35 again. I feel like he only has 2 options. You guys know where I'm going. You know, I think it's only fair that it's Vasily Lomachenko or it's Shakur Stevenson. At 35, he already beat Frank Martin, who is a good fighter at 35, you know, a better than good fighter. But at the end of the day, we need to see Tank against the elite. And after that performance, it just showed me that he's ready. You know, we know that he's been ready, but that performance really showed me like the time is now. You know, he came off a layoff, more than a year off. He said he felt the ring rust. So why not get back in the ring with a guy that, you know, is going to challenge you, that no one can say anything about. No one can say anything about you beating a guy like Lomachenko. Yeah, there are always going to be those built-in excuses about, yeah, he's past his prime, this and that. But it's a better win than fighting a guy like Keyshawn Davis or, you know, someone similar to that, like Frank Martin. Like, it's a good win. It's a great win. But don't get me wrong. But getting those wins that are against really elite fighters, like pound for pound level, at 35, there aren't too many big names. It's only Shakur Stevenson and Lomachenko that Tank really has as options on the table. Other than that, there's not really any big fight for him. At 40, you have a lot, you know, but that also, you know, you have to take into account the fact that Tank made 135, but he weighed in at 133.6 pounds. So he came in more than a pound under 35. So that tells me he's not going to 40 anytime soon. If you're weighing in more than a pound less than 35, then that tells me you're probably going to stay at 35. So all indicators point to Tank fighting a guy like Lomachenko or fighting a guy like Shakur Stevenson. I like both fights. You guys know I'm a big fan of Shakur. I'm a big fan of Lomachenko. I think I recognize their greatness, but at the same time, I feel like Lomachenko is the more seasoned fighter, obviously. So why not go for that guy, especially if he only has limited fights left, honestly. I don't know how much longer Lomachenko is going to be in the game. So for Lomachenko and Tank to fight, I think that's a great fight for Tank. I think the time is now for Gervonta to take that fight and capitalize on that name and have a big name as Lomachenko on your resume. That'd be a really good win. And Lomachenko coming off that big win against George Kambosos, I feel like people wouldn't, you know, really discredit Tank too much, I think, because Lomachenko still looks very good. And Shakur is a great fight as well. I just think that at 40, that's a big fight because the skill level and the skill magnitude is so big. So why not push that fight to 40 and let Tank get in the mix with guys like maybe Ryan again, maybe fight Devin if you're Tank. So Devin is, you know, we don't know where he's at, but he said he wants to get back into the mix. So why not make a big fight with Devin happen first, maybe get that Ryan Garcia rematch if you're Gervonta Davis. He has a lot of options at 140 if he's open to them. If he's only limiting himself to 135, it's got to be Lomachenko or Shakur. But if he goes up to 40, he has a lot more options. He could fight Ryan again. He could fight Devin. Those are big fights as well. Those are the big money fights. I think Tank versus Devin does a lot of pay-per-view numbers. I think him and Ryan definitely does a lot of numbers in a rematch. If they did 1.2 million pay-per-view buys, I think they'd do even more, especially with everything, all the controversy surrounding Ryan Garcia at this moment. Tank is also himself in a lot of controversy outside of the ring, so why not make those big fights happen? I think that, you know, Tank could definitely hold his own at 40. He's done it before against Mario Barrios, but I understand the risk. You know, if Tank has the ability to, I think Tank could probably make 130 comfortably if he really wanted to, but fighting at 35, he feels definitely more comfortable. And if he's coming in more than a pound under, he didn't even come in at 34. He came in at 33. So that tells me he's probably not going to go to 40 just yet. I think Lomachenko is the big fight for Tank to make, but the money has to be right. I think Lomachenko, it's a great option for him because he's going to make a lot of money. And the clash of styles, two southpaws, two athletic southpaws, it's a great fight. I feel like a lot of people have been asking Tank if he chose Frank Martin to prepare for more elite southpaws and guys like Shakur Stevenson and guys like Lomachenko, and he said no, because they all fight differently. And the truth is that Shakur is a different fighter than Lomachenko. Lomachenko is a more offensive and aggressive fighter, where Shakur is more defensive, and he's gonna more so jab you to death and try to find those little counter shots. He's gonna go to the body, but you know, the difference between Lomachenko and Shakur, I think Loma has more shock value to his shots. He has more power. The placement and precision and timing, to me, seems a little bit better from Lomachenko, especially when it comes to power. You know, I think he has a level of power that could give Tank problems where Shakur maybe can't. And I'm not saying that Shakur Stevenson can't beat Gervonta Davis in a boxing match, but he would have to stay very disciplined and obviously stick to a game plan where, you know, most fighters, close to 30 fighters, have all failed, and you know, few have even gone the distance. Isaac Cruz is basically the only guy. So it just statistically, it's a difficult fight for Shakur, but obviously if there's someone to do it, if there's a technician to get the job done, it's going to be Shakur Stevenson. It's just not an easy fight for him whatsoever. It's the biggest test of his career, and it's all about, you know, maintaining the game plan, because everybody always has a plan against Tank. I think that it's a little bit different because Lomachenko could potentially get Tank's respect. You know, the angles, everything can confuse him. It's just about predictability. When Tank can sense your patterns, every boxer has a rhythm, and once Tank catches that rhythm and then implements his own pressure and game plan against you, that's when we find out how good you really are against Tank. You know, until then, you could win a lot of rounds, but when he turns up the heat and starts to figure you out and get comfortable, that's what's scary. He got really comfortable against Frank Martin because he didn't respect Frank Martin's power. They talk about the sparring, how Frank Martin landed a big left hand down the pipe when they were sparring, but you got to remember, it's sparring, and at the same time, if Tank wasn't respecting Frank Martin in the actual fight, that tells me that the left hand that Frank Martin landed on him wasn't that big of a deal. Maybe it was a clean shot, but it didn't really do any devastating, you know, punishment to Tank. And that showed because, you know, coming in there, hands low, feeling real comfortable, getting into that peekaboo. You know, the only real bruising that Tank got was from his gloves because he was covering himself up. You see a lot of fighters do that when they have that high guard. They're really closed off on their you know, their face, and they really hold those gloves close to their face. They get scarred up because every time you're getting punched, the glove is like grazing your cheeks and stuff like that. That's why Tank was marked up. It wasn't really so much punishment because Tank didn't respect the power. Tank felt the power, but he didn't really, you know, react that much. I said this before, but it just seemed like in that fight, no matter how many combinations and good shots that Frank Martin would land, every time Tank would land a singular shot, it seemed to do more damage than all of Frank's shots combined throughout that fight. That's what it seemed like. It seemed like, you know, Gervonta's presence, his aura seemed like the bigger guy in the ring, even though physically and visibly you could see Frank Martin was the bigger guy, but the way that the fight was orchestrated, the ring generalship, Tank was the bigger man in that fight when he was walking him down and putting that pressure, applying that pressure that forced Frank Martin to stop being mobile and, you know, back into a corner. As much as we want to say Frank Martin should have kept his back off the corner, Tank was doing a good job of cutting off the ring and giving Frank Martin nowhere to escape to, and that was the story of the fight. Once he was able to back Frank Martin into that corner right where he wanted him, he was able to set up that game, you know, that game plan, those combinations. He was able to fake that right hand to open up that uppercut, you know, place his shots very well, and we saw that on display. We saw everything. We saw the composure from Tank. We saw him go to his corner, you know, hear those words with the sense of urgency from Calvin Ford, hearing that, you know, I need all these rounds from you. That's what Tank's trainer was saying to him, and Tank responded. Tank responded by getting the stoppage. He didn't just bag all those rounds boxing. He said, let me get this guy out of here. If I can't leave this to the judges, because who knows what's going to happen. So that's the kind of mentality that Tank has. That's what makes him different. Talking all that talk, you know, the antics before the fight, making Frank Martin flinch, this and that. I'm not saying that made him win the fight, but psychologically, he knew that, you know, being able to psych Frank Martin out was going to have an impact in the fight. You know, he was going to have a little bit of a mind game advantage when they got in there, and that was evident in the fight. Tank was just, you know, constantly pressuring Frank Martin, and Frank Martin was doing well in the beginning up until the 7th and 8th round, where you could visibly see he started to break down and kind of, I don't know if it was a stamina issue or he got comfortable. I think it might have been a combination of the two, but still, Frank Martin did a great job. But, you know, everybody does a great job against Tank. You know, Frank Martin's a great fighter. Tank just showed everybody in the world that there are levels to boxing, and now, you know, because he's beaten a top level fighter and a guy like Frank Martin, he can't go down in opposition. He's got to go for guys like Lomachenko or Shakur if he intends on staying at 35. But let me know in the comments what you guys think should be next. I'd love to see the Lomachenko fight next because honestly, you know, we don't know how many fights Lomachenko has left. It could be just one, and he could make a lot of money against Tank, but I have to favor Tank in that department just because of the power. I think that Tank's in his prime right now. After that Frank Martin fight, it just seems like against every opponent, he comes out on top, and it's just a matter of time. You know, as much success as you can have in the first half of the fight, Tank tends to take over. So I got to lean towards Tank by stoppage, but I love that fight between him and Lomachenko. But let me know in the comments who you guys got. Vasily Lomachenko versus Tank, who you guys got, and is that the fight that you want to see next from Gervonta Tank Davis? But thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, it's been your boy with Navs Fight Media, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace. That's going to do it for another Navs Fight Media video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy, Matt Nabong, with another video. Hope you guys enjoyed it all. Thank you guys for the constant support. Salute to y'all always. It's been your boy.